Well, good evening, one and all, and welcome to Gospel Mission Baptist Church on this Wednesday night. Glad you've made your way out. Boy, wasn't that a pretty song to start the service with? Our Lord Emmanuel. I like that. Read something today that just blessed my heart. This girl said, I have been brainwashed by my religion. She said, in fact, I've been so brainwashed by this Jesus stuff that I'm off drugs. I'm not suicidal. She said, I like it. Jesus will change your life. Has he changed your life? He sure did change mine. Amen. All right, everybody knows what's coming up Saturday, right? Amen. Saturday, we're going to eat. We got it all catered. Ladies do bring some desserts, and we're just going to have a good time. I may wear my Christmas suit. What do y'all think? Yeah. I don't think Brother Randy knows anything about my Christmas suit, does he? Okay.
I saw your Easter suit. You did look like a real
Yeah. One of the church members who remain anonymous, since I don't really want to embarrass Miss Judy, got me a Christmas suit, and I've had fun with that, so I just may have to dig it out of the closet and wear it Saturday. This is true. Okay, it's settled. Probably need to get me some suspenders to match. We'll see what we can do. All righty, that's coming up this Saturday. And then Sunday evening, we're going to have our Christmas program. I am looking forward to that. Sunday morning, we'll have a church, too. 10 o'clock Sunday school, 11 o'clock worship service. So make your plans to be back out for that. And next week, our midweek service will be on Tuesday. Christmas is almost here. Can you believe it? Are you ready? We was asking everybody about that today. Are you ready for Christmas? And the consensus is, ready or not, here it comes. So I'm ready. My wife's not. She hasn't got everything. Well, we still got to go out and buy some gifts, don't we? Okay, we're not ready.
You need a love offering. Is that what you're waiting on?
No, she's waiting on her husband to get up off the couch. Love offering won't help that. All righty. Prayer request. It's good to see Brother Joe back. Yeah. He said he's hurting a little bit, but as long as he doesn't run real fast or real far, he said he's okay. So.
I talked to Terry today, and I come up with an idea.
Uh-oh.
Get me a suit made out of bubble wrap.
That's a good idea. I like that. That's where the nickname Pop came from. So everybody can just call you Pop when you get that suit made. All righty. Continue to pray for Brother Joe. Pray for Melissa and her knees, and pray for Melissa's situation, having lost her job. We also want to remember Michael's special. We want to remember James. Was today the day you're supposed to go to the doctor? Okay. So now they got to reschedule everything. So pray for James. Continue to pray for Miss Linda, her surgery coming up. Pray for Miss Pat, her surgery coming up. Are y'all in a race to see who can spend the most time in the hospital? I don't think none of you can beat Alice and Michael. I mean, they're on a tag team mission there, so just let them win. All right. Pray for Miss Pam. Miss Pam, does she go to the emergency room? Miss Pam with her heart? She. Okay, well that's good. Spend all of Jerry's money. Continue to pray for Miss Pam, though. Oh, let's see. Abigail's friend at school, remember her. Remember Whitney's grandmother. Remember Vicki and Debbie's sister, Lisa. Remember Jason Gates. Call that out. Remember Caleb Holt. A couple of you have asked about my grandson David. I texted him, and he is still hurting I don't think it's as bad, but he just doesn't have any energy. And for a 16-year-old young man, that's just unusual. So keep praying for David, if you would. I want him to be pain-free and running circles around me and his daddy both. That's what I want. All right. Pray for Miss Pam's grandson in addition to Miss Pam as well. Any other prayer requests this evening? Yes, sir. Pray for Miss Vicki. I'm glad she was able to come Sunday morning, but we wore her slap out, didn't we? Pray for Miss Vicki.
Pray for my family too.
Pray for Joe's family. Pray for Hannah. Definitely pray for Hannah. I go through spells. I see Hannah everywhere I turn. She's an hour and a half away from here, but I've seen her. There's a girl worked at Chick-fil-A looked just like Hannah. I've seen there's a girl that I saw in Walmart looked just like Hannah. So the Lord's got Hannah on my mind too. So y'all remember to pray for Hannah, okay? Other prayer requests. Yes, ma'am. Oh boy. Pray for Miss Carolyn. Pray for the list. Pray for the doctor. Pray that your hearing aids are working good so that you hear everything she says or he says. Okay. Yep. Anybody else tonight? For Jada's grandmother. Okay, pray for Jada's grandmother. Anybody else? Lord brought a sweet memory back to me. My dad passed away in 98, so this would have been 96, 95, 30 years ago. But Dad was in the hospital. He'd already had, they called them mini strokes, and he couldn't talk very well. And he had sundowner syndrome. If you've ever had a family member with that, when it gets dark, they forget where they are. And we were in the hospital, and I was staying with him, and somewhere along late that night, he got very fidgety, and he kept trying to reach over. He was taking his blanket, and he was laying it up on my shoulder, and it took me a little while to figure out what he was doing. And when it finally dawned on me what he was doing, he recognized that I was his little boy. He couldn't put it into words, but he knew he had a blanket, and I didn't. And he wanted to make sure, and so I just reached up and grabbed that blanket right here and just held on to it. He calmed right down, and he went right off to sleep, but he had to make sure that his little boy had a piece of that blanket. What brought it back to mind is my grandson climbed up next to me, and then he reached over and covered me up with his blanket, and I went back 30 years just like that. Boy, aren't there some sweet memories that God brings to you every now and again? That was a good one. Riding along with my granddaughter, and I passed the old Haynes knitting mill plant up there on Haynes Mill Road. I pointed at it and I said, "Have I told you that I used to work here?" She said, "Every time we go by." Yep, I'm there. Any other prayer requests? Anybody want to brag on God? Has God been good to anybody but just me? Am I his favorite? I love him too. God sure has been good to me. God been good to anybody else? Okay, I'm still starting to wonder there. Mercy me.
You talk about that, when Mary passed away, it was all around the pit there.
Yeah. God says, precious in his sight are the passing of his saints. So those aren't sad memories. Those are I love you memories. Glad I got some.
Yeah, the Lord has really touched her the last few years she lived. And, as she had that last surgery though, she never did get back up on the way to that.
Yep.
But the doctor coming over, told me out one time, she said, no, that, they just wanna let her come home. That's how she had that heart attack. He said, we're gonna check her heart, make sure it's doing good enough to go home. And, he come back in there with a, that machine, and they checked her heart. And it's gone for a pretty good while, and they come back with that machine again. Checked her heart again, and wasn't long, he come back, had two pieces of paper in his hand, he said, I don't understand this. I said, what's that, Doc? He said that before she was brought up here, said, her left ventricle was only working at 20%. Said it's supposed to be 50. Said the other one's working fine, but that's not. But he says, we run it twice. And he said, it's not 50 now, he said, it's 60. And he said, that's something I never heard tell of before. I said, Doc, if you believe in the same God I do, you'll know what happened.
Yeah.
He says, that's the only way to explain it.
That's right. God still answers prayer, still performs miracles, but he's not a show pony. He doesn't do it the way we want him to when we want him to. He is God, and I'm okay with that, aren't you? Amen and amen. All right, it's prayer meeting night. Anything you want us to pray for? Well, Brother Tony, would you lead us in prayer tonight? All right, everybody got your papers tonight? Oh, before we do you want to sing tonight? Wasn't tonight? Some other time? You changed your mind. Okay. That is a young lady's prerogative. All right, got your papers. We're studying the book of Joshua tonight. And I'm just going to tell you up front, it's going to be hard for me to let this one go with just one lesson because Joshua is probably my favorite book in the Bible. I just like a lot of verses in there. if I had a life verse, and I don't really think I do, but one that keeps popping up in my life over and over again is Joshua 1:8. Many years ago, we taught Sunday school at a little church up in the mountains, and I taught the teenagers. And this was one verse I drilled into their head. I wanted them to know Joshua 1:8. Do y'all know what it says? This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. You want to know how many times the word success is used in the King James Bible? One time. Joshua 1:8. That's a good verse to memorize. Oh yeah, we'll get to that one in just a minute. All right, Joshua begins a section in the Old Testament. There's 12 books in this next section. The first 5 are called the law. The next 12 are called the historical books. Joshua is the first one. You know what comes next? There's Joshua and Judges and Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. Not Job. Job's not historical. Aren't you glad? All right, in Joshua, it's good to note that Joshua was born as a slave down in Egypt. And his parents called him Joshua. The name Joshua means Jehovah is salvation. That's pretty good for a slave's name, huh? Well, it doesn't matter what you're born into. It's what God takes you and puts you into that really matters, isn't it? And look where God wound up putting Joshua. The book of Joshua kind of breaks down into 3 different sections with a 4th little tag on the end. But the first section is the crossing. They've got to get from the wilderness into the promised land, and there was one big obstacle that they had to get across. That was the Jordan River. Miss Judy knows all about the Jordan River. You can get washed away in the Jordan River, can't you, Miss Judy? I still would love to find that footage. Somewhere in this world there's floating around footage of Miss Judy being washed down the Jordan River. And what were you yelling, Miss Judy? Help me. If any of you ever find that footage of this woman floating down the Jordan River, I would enjoy having a copy of that. Yes, you can get washed away in the Jordan River. That's a problem. And there's a whole bunch of people on the wrong side wanting to get over on the right side, because where's the promised land? On the other side of the Jordan River. Now, I know we got a lot of songs, and some songs teach good biblical truth, but any song that refers to crossing Jordan as dying is not teaching you biblical truth. Crossing Jordan, you're not going to heaven when you cross Jordan, because what they had on the other side was battles. What they're doing is crossing over from a Christian life or a following of God into the promises that God had for them. And if we were to do an honest survey among everybody, you'd be surprised how many Christians are stuck in the wilderness because they're afraid to cross over the Jordan. You know, spies came back 38 years ago and said, those are big people over there. There's a lot of trouble. We can't do it. And without God, you can't. But are you ready to trust Him? That's the point. In Joshua chapter 1, God makes 3 promises to them before they cross over the Jordan River. Look at chapter 1, verse number 3. Here's what God promises them if they'll just cross the Jordan. Every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, that have I given unto you, as I said unto Moses. So the first thing he promised them the land. Every place your foot trods is yours. Boy, wouldn't that make you take some big steps, huh? Look down at verse number 5 and you'll see the second thing that God promised them. There shall not any man be able to stand before thee all the days of thy life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. I will not fail thee nor forsake thee. God promised victory. Wow. Yeah, there's going to be battles, but God promised victory. Did you know, Christian, that God has promised you victory? Now, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but we wrestle against principalities and powers, and spiritual wickedness in high places, but God has promised us victory. We are not defeated. We are fighting a defeated foe, and he knows his time is short. Why do you think he's fighting so viciously right now? Third thing promised is down there in verse number 9 that Brother Joe was referring to. You heard me quote verse 8. That's a good one. But look at verse number 9. Have I not commanded thee? Be strong and of a good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed. For the Lord thy God is with thee whithersoever thou goest. We have a New Testament equivalent. God said, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Well, why are we walking around so scared? Well, because he won't leave us, but we feel like we might leave him. Now we get to chapter 2, and believe it or not, Joshua does send out some spies. You'd think he'd learned his lesson 38 years ago. How many spies did they send out 38 years ago? 12. 38 years ago, they sent out 12. 10 came back with a bad report, and only 2 gave a good report. Everybody of that generation died except for those 2 that came back with a good report, Joshua and Caleb. And now Joshua's in charge. Look at verse number 1. Joshua the son of Nun sent out of Shittim 2 men to spy secretly, saying, Go view the land, even Jericho, very limited. And they went and came, and they found somebody. Who did they find? He goes on to tell us. They came to a harlot's house named Rahab and lodged there. So he sent out 2 spies, and there they were just to check out Jericho. Not the whole land, but just Jericho. That's the first thing they're going to see when they cross over. It's a walled city. And what are they going to do to take a walled city? The fortresses of that day were designed where everybody just came in, they closed the gates, and you couldn't get in. And then you had to wait them out. You had to wait a year or 2 till they starved out. That was standard strategy if you were going to take a walled city. You just had to surround it and not let anything in and not let anything out, and just wait till they ran out of food and ran out of water. My goodness, that's not good if you're going to go take the whole land and you get stuck at the very first place. Well, we know how that turns out, don't we? They looked over the land. They met Rahab. The people of Jericho knew that they had come to Rahab's house, and she hid them and told them that they'd already gone. She asked that they would protect her and her family because she knew that God was with them and that God was going to make them victorious. She wanted to be on their side, even though she lived in Jericho. And now there was a sign that they gave her. This is what you got to do, and we'll protect you and your house. What was that sign? Y'all been in Sunday school. Y'all know this. A what? Scarlet cord. Yep. You hang that out the window and we'll leave you alone. Otherwise, we're not guilty if you die by accident. Now, They came back across the river, and the time came for the whole congregation to move. And God was going to increase Joshua's stature before the people. This is just after Moses has died. This is Joshua's first major undertaking as their new leader. And God had promised him privately, I'm going to be with you. But God says, now, let me just show everybody that you're my man. So there's chapter 3, verse number 13. Look what God says he's going to do. It shall come to pass, as soon as the soles of the feet of the priests that bear the ark of the Lord of all the earth, shall rest in the waters of Jordan, that the waters of Jordan shall be cut off from the waters that come down from above, and they shall stand upon an heap. Now, first and foremost, how would you like to be one of the priests carrying the ark? And Joshua says, you go first, guys. You go ahead and wade on out there. This is what God says to do. My first question is, how deep you want me to go? You want me to go ankle deep? You want me to go knee deep? You want me to go hip deep? And Joshua says, you just keep on going. You just keep on going. It's going to take a little bit of trust in Joshua, isn't it? Joshua says, don't worry, fellas, the Lord's talked to me. It's going to be fine. I'm glad they trusted Joshua. The whole congregation went down there and they were watching. And when the priest's feet hit the water rolled back. And can you imagine that great big Jordan River, the water just piled up? It was a great big wall. God just held it back. Boy, oh boy, you can hear the whispers now going through that whole congregation. Look what God's doing now. I heard my daddy and my granddaddy, they talked about how he stopped the Red Sea. I'm watching him now stop the Jordan River. Look at that. Held it back. You know, some of the liberals say that it was just a strong east wind and it just dried everything up. We didn't see the water all rolled up like that. But my daddy told me the water was a wall on each side. I believe it now. I see it with my own eyes. Look, he did it the Jordan River too. Oh my, Joshua must be God's man. Boy, they had a lot to do when they got across the river, didn't they? Time to go across the river, and that's what they did. When we get on down to chapter 6 is victory. An interesting battle plan. Be quiet. Don't say a word. Be silent and march around the city, all the way around that big walled city. Just march around one time. Tuesday, do the same thing. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, do the same thing. But the seventh day, I want you to go around it 7 times. And at the end of that 7th trip around, blow the trumpets and yell for all you're worth. Now there's a battle plan. What, you mean no cannons? We're not even going to throw rocks or spears or nothing? I mean, of course, we can't throw them that high. That's what he said. Just yell. And you know what happened. The walls fell, didn't they? Now, I've read, and I haven't verified it, but, you know, on the internet you can read anything, but I have read that they've done some excavations at Jericho, and they found a very unusual thing. They found exactly what the Bible said, that the walls fell out, not in. Isn't that interesting? By the way, think about this for just a moment. If you're going to build a wall to protect the city, you're not going to build it like this, are you, where it's top heavy? You're going to build it like this, where it's narrower at the top than it is at the bottom. You're probably going to build it a little more like this. And it fell out. Yeah. It fell. Big pile of rubble at the bottom. And it fell so completely that the children of Israel didn't have any problem getting into the city at all. And they won the battle that day. That's victory. Joshua chapter 6. Joshua chapter 7, you would think, well, I'll be. But Joshua chapter 7 is defeat. Little old bitty town only had 2 letters in its name, an A and an I. And you'd think they'd have no trouble at all with that. In fact, that's what they thought. Not everybody needs to go down. That's just such a little old place. We'll just send a few down and we'll take that. They went in their own strength for that battle. So chapter 7 is defeat. You know what happened in chapter 7, right? A fellow by the name of Achan. Verse 1, chapter 7, the children of Israel committed a trespass in the accursed thing, for Achan, the son of Carmi, the son of Zabdi, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, took of the accursed thing, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against the children of Israel. So when the battle came, Ai was victorious, Israel lost, and they lost 36 fighting men. Because of one man's sin. That's hardly fair, is it? God's teaching them a very important lesson. The lesson is that obedience leads to victory. The corollary of that is disobedience leads to defeat. Makes good sense to obey God, doesn't it? In such a little thing. I'm sure that Achan, justified. It's just a little thing. Just a change of clothes, a little wedge of gold, nothing too big. Nobody's going to miss anything of that, are they? And besides, nobody knows. I'll just take it and I'll hide it. Nobody knows. Can't keep God from knowing. And without God, we are not powerful enough. Sorry. Too many men have built too big a temple. And when they're gone, it fades and folds. Because they didn't teach this valuable lesson that you just got to keep trusting God. You just got to keep obeying. Yeah, for a strong personality can build some big things. But the absence of that personality, they'll all crumble and fall away. My goodness, can I name you some big churches, some good churches that aren't there anymore? Can I name you some big Bible colleges, some good Bible colleges that just aren't there anymore? And why is it that, especially with Bible colleges and churches, they start off conservative and trusting God, and over time they become more liberal and drift farther away from God to appeal to the people until eventually they've lost it all and then they just fade away? Why can't we just keep on trusting God? Because we get scared. Obedience leads to victory. Just hold on to that. It's not in the numbers. It's not in the program. It's simply obeying God. Y'all got that? Or you want me to go over it again? Y'all got it? All right. Now, Joshua had a strategy that God gave him when he went across. God told him, when you go into the land, he said, the first thing I want you to do is go straight down the middle. I want you to conquer the central part of the promised land. That's first. You see, his strategy was divide and conquer. First, he went right straight down through the center, and he said, now go south and take that part of the land as things develop. And then eventually go north and take that part of the land. So that's how it went. If you were to read those chapters, that's how Joshua did it. And as long as they trusted God, there was victory. In fact, there was more victory than they were able to trust God for. There were times they just quit. they didn't want to drive them out of the mountains because they were too well entrenched. And so they let them stay. There were fortresses they didn't run the enemy out of completely as God commanded. It was just too much. And so there were little pockets here and there that they weren't completely destroyed as God said. Now, let this sink in for just a minute. This was 3,500 years ago. 3,500 years ago. And they left little pockets all around. Those little pockets, gave God's people trouble the whole time they were a nation. And those little pockets that were scattered around are still giving trouble today. 3,500 years later, their descendants are still giving trouble. What land are they fighting about? They're fighting about the Gaza Strip. Yeah, they're talking about the Golan Heights in the north. My goodness, they're talking about all of these places that God gave Joshua the message, the word, go on and do it. But the people pulled up short. We all fight our battles, don't we? And unless we have complete victory, that enemy will always be there. And guess what, my friend? That enemy will not only affect you, it'll affect your children and your children's children. In fact, you may be fighting some enemies that your grandparents and great-grandparents didn't squelch. Well, how can I win now? The same way they could have won then. Just trust God and go all out. Don't quit. That's how you win. Do what God says. Obey. See why I like this book? Now, we get to the latter chapters of this book, the last third of this book, and we talk about how God chose to divide up the land. This land, God had promised them. And the way they were to choose their inheritance was by lots. We'd call it drawing straws. But it was done, and by the way, that's why a lot of folks don't believe in gambling, because they say that nothing happens by chance. God has to be involved in everything. Every roll of the dice, you're requiring God's attention to it. Some people won't even play a game with dice because of that. Gambling is wrong because too many lose so that a few can win. It's too easy to cheat, and especially when money's involved. That's why I'm not even going to buy a lottery ticket. Y'all know how much the lottery winnings are now? It's getting to be close to the biggest pot ever. Your preacher keeps up with that. And yes, I did. I turned to Miss Betty and I said, what do you think we could do with that money? No, I'm not buying a lottery ticket. And Lord help me, if there's a lottery ticket laying in the parking lot, I'm going to throw it away. I'm not going to look at it. I'm going to trust God. If he wanted me to have $1 million, he'd find another way to do it, wouldn't he? Yes, he would. All right, so they're going to divide up the land. How many tribes get land on the west side of the Jordan River? Now, on the west side. That's the east side. East is where the sun comes up. 9.5, that's right.
Dan, Benjamin, and Manasseh or something.
Well, no. 9.5 is correct. The Levites didn't get a portion like that, but that's the third question down. The Levites received only cities. They didn't receive a portion of the land, but they did receive cities that were theirs. Now, yes, there were 9.5 on the west side of Jordan. There were 2.5 that got their inheritance on the east side of Jordan.
And didn't they ask to stay over there?
They did ask.
They asked,
And Joshua gave them the condition. Your families can stay, but the fighting men have to come with us, and we have to fight with us until the battle is won. Then you can go back and claim your inheritance on the east side. So, 9.5 on the west side. The others were on the east side of Jordan. Reuben and Gad and half tribe of, was it Manasseh? Manasseh was the other one. Now, we get to those latter chapters in the book of Joshua, and Joshua is warning the people. Chapter 23, I want you to look at verse number 8. Joshua was getting old. Commentaries say that he was probably 110 years old this time. That's older than Brother Joe. But Joshua was warning them. He said, I'm going the way that all men go. He said, I'm going to die. But if you found verse number 8, chapter 23, but cleave unto the Lord your God as ye have done unto this day. Don't leave God. He was warning them against idolatry. Those peoples that were left there, they worshiped all kinds of idols. There was Baal. Now, Baal was the god that made the crops grow. We'd refer to Baal as the god of profit. You know, he's the one that makes your business grow. Ashtaroth was the goddess of pleasure. And then there was Molech, the god of fire, but he was the god of persuasion. If you offered your child to Molech, you were influential in the community. And some people desire that more than anything else. Those were the three major gods, the false gods in the area. Which one reaches out to you? Do you want more? Do you want pleasure? Or do you want influence? When you walk into a room, you want everybody to turn and look at you. The devil still uses those three. He wants to confound all of us. They worshiped these gods, and Joshua was warning them. They're going to try and influence you. And you know, the devil, sometimes I shake my head because it seems like that people that don't care about God, that don't want anything to do with God in their life seem to prosper, don't they? They seem to be the ones that everybody looks up to, that they got the money, they got the power. But what they don't have is peace to lay down and go to sleep knowing that it's going to be okay. I've met a few people that's had some money, and their biggest worry in life is that they're going to lose some of it. They can't rest. And I don't have much, but I worry. Every night I'll hear a little click, and I haven't heard that click before, and I'm thinking, is that a pipe that's popped? Is water spraying? Is somebody breaking into my car? What's going on? And I have to force myself to say, Lord, I'm going to trust you. You take care of this. It's not about stuff. It's about Him. And as long as I have Him, that's all I need. And I have Him. I'm just going to hold on to Him. Anything that gets between you and God, that you're willing to sacrifice time or treasure for, that is an idol. Keep that in mind. Anything that you let get between you and God, that you're willing to sacrifice time or treasure for, is an idol. Joshua warned them. Your gray-haired pastor is warning you. And then you get down to Joshua 24:15. This is what I want to leave you with tonight. Joshua's parting words to these people. He'd led them through the battles. He had walked with them through the wilderness. He had seen God give the victory. He's getting ready to step off the scene. We know that there wasn't really another leader like Joshua, because we stepped from Joshua into the book of Judges. And what's the first thing it tells us there? Every man did that which was right in his own eyes. Joshua's leaving them a word, and it's in verse 15 of chapter 24. If it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom ye will serve. Whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Oh my goodness. That's taking a big 16-penny nail and driving it in the wall, isn't it? This is just the way it's going to be. Joshua says, I can't control your house. You got to do that. But I'm warning you, you better choose whom you're going to serve. And if you think the gods that we have overthrown are more powerful than the God who has led you and give you victory, then you serve them. But I don't believe that. As for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. So folks, who's brought you to where you are? Your own wittiness? Your own intellect? Your own good decisions? No. Good luck? No. God's brought you where you are. And where would you be without God's hand in your life? That frightens me when I think about that. Where would I be? Yeah, I think a lot of us would. But God sure has been good, hasn't He? So what am I going to do? What am I going to choose to do right now? If it seems good to you to serve somebody, some other God, if you're all about making profit, I caution you, but I can't stop you. But as for me and my house, I want you to know we're going to serve the Lord. Whew. See why I like the book of Joshua? I wish I was more like Joshua, but I'm more like Peter. Open your mouth and stick your foot in it. That's what Peter did an awful lot of. Oh, Lord, I want to be close, but I'll say something stupid. You know that, Lord. He said, Peter, I love you anyway. Come on. But boy, I'd like to be like Joshua. You don't see any negative thing about Joshua at all, do you? You see a man even from his youth just going to trust God. When other people didn't, he did. When there was a decision to be made, Joshua made it. Let's just do what God said. Period. That's Joshua's whole life. Oh, we need more Joshuas, don't we? All right, everybody got all your blanks filled in? Don't want anybody to go home with a blank. That's a terrible thing if you go home with a blank. Miss Betty, you got all your blanks filled in? All right. Looking forward to this weekend. Saturday's going to be fun. Sunday's going to be fun. Whew, Christmas is getting here fast. I enjoy the season, but it always comes too quickly. I don't get everything done that I can. Whew, I get more done than I can afford. Oh, man. All right. Brother Joe, dismiss us, would you?
Our kind and most precious Heavenly Father, it's with an humble and grateful heart that we come to you. I want to thank you, Lord, for the privilege of being in your house tonight. Thank you for all your many blessings. You've been so good to us, and we thank you and praise you for it. I want to thank you for our church, Lord, and the church family. I ask you to bless each one of them. I thank you for our pastor, Lord. You bless him and his wife. Ever use them for your honor and your glory. Now, Father, I pray as we leave and go our separate ways that you'll grant us traveling